UFC Paris is this weekend, and we have a phenomenal middleweight fight between Caio Borralho and Nassourdine Imamov. I was really waiting for this matchup for a while. I thought this was the proper fight to make while we had this whole lead up to the Khamzat Dricus fight. So we're finally getting it. Caio Borralho versus Nassourdine Imamov. This was the right fight to make, and it headlines this really great Paris card. This is as good as it gets in terms of a Paris card. You have all the Paris fighters that need to be on here. William Gomez, Omar Sy, Fares Ziam, and of course Benoit Saint-Denis and Nassourdine Imamov. Really everyone except for Cyril Gane. So we're going to talk mostly about the main card fights. And before we do that, though, let's talk about the prelims real quick. So you got the women's fight. Then you go up here. You got Andreas Gustafsson versus Rinat Fakhretdinov. Andreas making a statement in the Contender Series and making he beat Chaos Williams at UFC 316, I believe. So Andreas Gustafsson, you look at this guy, he is super scary, super intimidating. Honestly, let me just zoom out real quick. That's a little better. He's super intimidating. I mean, look at this guy with his tats and everything. I mean, I don't know. He has some kind of stance, I guess, politically. Not to get too much into that, but this guy looks like the Batman villain Bane. And he's taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov, both coming off wins. I don't know. I feel like Rinat Fakhretdinov has been fighting a lot of guys. Right, he beat Leal, Dalby. He's been fighting a lot of the middle talent. Fought Brian Battle back in the day, so he hasn't really lost yet. So 23-1. Holy cow. What a record from Rinat Fakhretdinov. And then you have Andreas Gustafsson, who looks like just a cardio monster, who just trudges forward and is basically a marauder. And so he bursted on the scene. He's just a super intimidating fighter. And yeah, this is a sick prelim on the card. Who do I got here? Dang. I think I'm going to go with Andreas Gustafsson, honestly. I know Rinat Fakhretdinov has the UFC experience. And maybe he fraud checks Andreas Gustafsson, but I don't know. Andreas Gustafsson just looks crazy. We don't know yet the full extent to which he could go. For real, Andreas, dude, look at that. Then you got Brad Tavares versus Robert Birsek. Brad Tavares. Cool fight, I guess. I'm going to go with Robert Birsek. Sam Patterson versus Trey Walters. Don't really know a whole bunch about these fighters. Rhys McKee versus Axel Sola. Okay, forget about that. Marcin Tybura, the ranked heavyweight, is back. He's taking on Ante Delija. So Marcin Tybura in this really bad heavyweight division. It's so bad you have the number 7th guy on the prelims of a fight night card. And he's, though, looking to put together 2 wins in a row after his last win. I forgot versus who. So Marcin Tybura versus Ante Delija. Okay. And then you have Omar Sy versus Brenson Ribeiro. Omar Sy took his first professional loss to Alonzo Menefield. So he's taking on Brenson Ribeiro. I'm going to pick Omar Sy to bounce back. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. And then in the featured prelim of the night, you got William Gomez versus Robert Rachula. William Gomez coming off the loss. And you got Robert Pachula, I guess, who's probably a debut guy. I'm going to go with William Gomez to bounce back. I think, I don't really know much about this Robert Pachula. That's just going to be my quick picks on the prelims. Not trying to get anything fancy with it. And yeah, agree or disagree, but. Then you have, to open up this card, Patricio Pitbull versus Lucene Keita. 2 guys coming from other promotions. Patricio Pitbull at this point will be his 3rd UFC fight, while the UFC just signed Lucene Keita. I don't even know how to say the name correctly. Another crazy prospect who I think put up 2 belts in another promotion, taking on Patricio Pitbull, who of course is the legendary Bellator fighter. Lost to Dan Ige. No, sorry. He beat Dan Ige. But who did he lose to in his... Oh, yeah, he lost to Yair Rodriguez. Right? Patricio Pitbull was a very well-respected, high-profile champion in Bellator. The UFC signs him. After that whole thing shuts down, and then Pitbull comes in and quickly gets shown the UFC level by Yair. So he's 1-1 right now. We know that Patricio Pitbull doesn't have much time. He really needs to go on a run here if he has any chance of getting the featherweight belt. And from what I saw in that first fight, honestly, Patricio Pitbull, maybe he's just really not on that level anymore to be able to compete with the top featherweights best. I think a lot of the top guys could beat him. Lerone Murphy. Even if you put him against Aaron Pico, maybe Aaron Pico could knock him out. But Lucene Kaita, of course, I don't know much about him because I haven't really watched any of his fights. Now that he's in the UFC, I take more notice. But I'm just going to say this is a cool fight, putting up two guys from other promotions to fight it out. There's some hype around this guy. Put him against Pitbull, who's 1-1 right now, still trying to prove himself at the UFC level. So that's cool that they threw this on here as the opening fight. Fareziam, the smile killer. He is taking on Cal Fernandez. He had that crazy, I remember the last Paris card, Fareziam had that crazy knee KO to Frivola. It was this crazy KO. I mean, his last fight was versus Davis. He got the decision, though. But Fareziam has put up a really good run so far in the UFC, beating guys like Jai Herbert. He lost to Terrence McKinney. He's on a win streak right now, though. Fareziam keeps going. And, he's a real lightweight contender, very long and rangy striker, 6'1". So, yeah, I'm hoping Fareziam in front of the hometown crowd can beat up Cal Fernandez and get a cool finish. That would be a cool moment. And by the way, Paris goes crazy. Paris is some of the craziest UFC fans. They always go crazy. The UFC always does it around this time of year in September. So Fareziam, I'm picking him to beat Cal Fernandez. Cool fight here. Paul Craig got re-signed by the UFC after his fight fell through with Rodolfo Bellato. No, it didn't fall through, but it came to a weird end with Bellato basically like putting on a masquerade kind of a performance, acting performance, to get a no contest with Paul Craig. It was a completely just super overdramatic turn of events, a very confusing fight. And that was how Paul Craig ended his contract. But the UFC is here giving him another chance based on how that ended. So he's taking on Modestas Bukauskas, who came off the win versus Ion Cutelaba. I think he finished Ion Cutelaba. But Paul Craig versus Modestas Bukauskas, another cool fight. Honestly, might be a crazy take, but I think I'm going to go with Paul Craig. I think I'm going to pick Paul Craig to bounce back. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those type of fights. So, yeah, that's Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. Then Balaji Oki versus Mason Jones. Mason Jones killed Jeremy Stevens' one-fight deal. So he's a recent signee into the UFC. And Balaji Oki, don't really know much about him. I can't even remember the last time. When was the last time he fought? See, I got to sometimes just do research while I'm shooting the video because... that was back in May 2025. What card was that? Christian Duncan. Wow. Yeah, so he's only had 3 fights so far in the UFC, 2-1. All right, let's see it. The Zulu Warrior. Okay. I'm gonna go with Balaji Oki to beat up Mason Jones. So yeah, that's kind of the card, but here's where it gets good: the co-main event and main event. Benoit Saint Denis versus Mauricio Ruffy. Now let's talk about Benoit first. Benoit came into the UFC, had some really impressive wins, great career trajectory. Going to the Dustin Poirier fight, everyone's like, Benoit is gonna clean him, is gonna destroy Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier doesn't really have much of a chance. I think Dustin Poirier is the underdog. Benoit is this new type of generation lightweight marauder who's just super vicious. But yeah, Benoit ended up getting finished. I mean, he was kind of really like in first gear for most of the fight, and then Dustin Poirier had that grit, came in, ended up TKOing, finishing, and ultimately got a title shot off that win versus Benoit. It was an amazing moment on the UFC Miami card. What was that? UFC 299. Phenomenal card. So Benoit lost there. Then he went into Paris the last Paris card, and he lost to Renato Moicano. So then he's on a 2-fight losing streak, and that was ultimately a doctor stoppage after Renato Moicano lit him up, and he couldn't even see out of his eye because his face was swollen so bad. So Benoit was on the 2-fight losing streak, and coming into UFC 315, he was supposed to fight Yoel Alvarez, and I had Yoel Alvarez to destroy Benoit. Like, Yoel Alvarez, it sucked that he had to pull out. I was actually one of the few fighters I was excited to see on that card, so I hope he could return soon. But I really thought that Benoit was about to be on a 3-fight losing streak after that fight had it happened, but it didn't. Yoel Alvarez fell off the card, so they put in this guy, Kyle Prepelic, to take on Benoit. And of course, Benoit beat him. This guy coming in on short notice, I think was re-signed into the UFC after being a failed fighter. So, you know, Benoit, it's cool. He got the win, but really against who? Like, that was Kyle Prepelic. That was not a ranked or very dangerous upcoming prospect like a Yoel Alvarez. And that's after losing to one of the best to ever do it, Dustin Poirier, and then a top 10 ranked lightweight in Renato Moicano. So, yeah, I don't really consider Benoit to be on a win. I think that meant nothing. But this is the real test right here. You're going up against Mauricio Ruffy, one of the 4 fighting nerds. The fighting nerds have been on one of the craziest runs as like a group in the UFC. All of them doing some star-studded finishes left and right. Gene Silva doing quick finishes here and there, building up his star power. Prate's just got a crazy spinning elbow knockout on the Chicago card to bounce back. They're basically all undefeated, except for that one loss with Prate's. And then Mauricio Ruffy, he had like 3 fights so far? I don't know. All I can remember is he lit up that guy lying top at Madison Square Garden, had some good striking moments, but ultimately didn't finish the guy. But he had some cool strikings with him. But then he comes into UFC 313, and what does he do? Spinning wheel kick KO on King Green. And granted, King Green's King Green. He doesn't have a chin. He's been finished violently many times at this point. But still, Mauricio Ruffy to showcase and style on him like that with ease. And we always say, like, look at him the way he's standing right now. And the way that he fights and the way that he stands, he's almost a splitting image of Conor McGregor. So there's a lot of, and some of the fighting nerds are saying that Mauricio Ruffy is the best out of all of them, which very well could be the case. So this is Ruffy's real moment. I mean, to once again get a style showcase performance versus a guy like Benoit. And on paper, Mauricio Ruffy should be styling on this guy. He should be taking the fight to Benoit and really just being like, and should hopefully like knock him out in a crazy violent way. But there's always the chance that Benoit can spoil the plans. He's a big guy. But yeah, Mauricio Ruffy has all the hype right now. The UFC recognizes that. All of these fighting nerds guys are stars in the making. So I think this is only Mauricio Ruffy, again, a build-up fight for him on a co-main event underneath his fighting nerd brother and Caio Borralho to go out there and KO the French guy in front of the French crowd. So Mauricio Ruffy, I can't in my right mind pick Benoit, but again, you never know because I just picked Zhang Mingyang to beat Johnny Walker, and Johnny Walker just beat Zhang Mingyang. So there's always being prospect, but I'm almost 90% sure this is going to be Mauricio Ruffy's fight. It's his game. The minute they announce this fight, I'm like, okay, this is perfectly laid out for Mauricio Ruffy to do something crazy on him. So I think he's just too good. I think Mauricio Ruffy really is going to be one of the most skilled lightweights in the world very, very soon. So I'm going with Mauricio Ruffy. Now with this main fight, on the contrary, I think I'm going to go with Nassourdine Imamov. Imamov is a sniper. He has an extremely well-rounded game. He's looked very clean in most of his fights. Most notable wins are coming from Buckley, Cannonier, Brendan Allen, Israel Adesanya in his last fight. Between these two guys, Nassourdine Imamov has truly done enough and for sure has the more stacked resume than a Borralho. I mean, Borralho hasn't really been too active. He's been the least active out of all 4 fighting nerds, but he finally has his fight. He's coming off that win versus Cannonier. Did he even finish him? I don't even know if he even finished him. Actually, I'm going to look. Honestly at what he's been up to. Went to the decision with Cannonier. KO'd Paul Craig. decision with Magomedov, Olazechuk. He's coming from the Contender Series. Wow, so he has had a lot more fights than I've realized. But yeah, at the end of the day, you know, Borralho saying he has the kind of grappling that could handle a Khamzat, whatever. This guy's gonna say whatever. He's always at the events, you know, just with his wide smile, just like bro, I don't know. Borralho somehow, like, he's my least favorite of the fighting nerds, to be honest with you. I don't know. Talking all this talk, but hasn't really walked it. But finally, we're getting this great fight. I mean, before this Anthony Hernandez and the Ritter situation, it was clear cut that these two guys needed to fight it out to be that next person up in the middleweight division. It was so clear. And Imamov, I mean, amazing TKO finish on Israel Adesanya, one of the best to ever do it. I really thought Izzy looked so super good in the beginning of that fight. And then he got eye poked, switched stances, and Nassourdine Imamov caught him because Nassourdine Imamov is a sniper with the striking. You see him at training. He has some sick striking training with boxing. So really, I think that day, Imamov, he just has that swagger. I really think Imamov is going to get it done versus Borralho. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, but by no means. But I just think that when it comes to this, I think Imamov is the better fighter, and I think he's going to get it done versus Caio Borralho. And again, this is the first step of the middleweight tournament that's going on right now. Like, if Imamov does something, or Borralho, if any of these guys got a crazy finish, but then a couple weeks later we got Anthony Hernandez and the Ritter fighting it out, and whoever gets a finish on that, it really depends on who gets the most exciting finish in their fight to get that next title shot. So yeah, Nassourdine Imamov, such a swag and but low-key fighter. Like, he's not talked about too much, honestly, sometimes. Brendan Allen, Cannonier, Roman Dolidze, he lost to Sean Strickland, Buckley, Edmund Shabazian. Great resume so far from Imamov. He really has done enough technically to already have earned a title shot at number 2, but respect him. He's getting to main event in this Paris card in front of the home crowd versus the Brazilian who's talking a lot. So yeah, that's who I'm rocking with. I'm rocking with Nassourdine Imamov. So those are my thoughts on the UFC Paris card. And again, fantastic fight night. The UFC is definitely cooking up some really great cards these days. And yeah, Paris is about to go crazy for this. I'm excited for it. Until next time.